Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Ryan, also known as Nehzzy, and I am a member of the Armor of God content creation team and the media team. I'm super excited and thankful that I've been given the opportunity to make this video for the Armor of God YouTube channel, and today we're going to be talking about the new Pokemon games that just released on the Nintendo Switch called Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. And don't worry, we're going to keep this completely spoiler-free. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet marks the beginning of the 9th generation of Pokemon as it takes place in the Paldea region, which is heavily inspired by Spain. While we have had tastes of it in recent games, this is our first ever true open world Pokemon game. On top of a ton of really cool new Pokemon, new characters, and a new region, we also see another barrier broken down by Game Freak in Generation 9 by making 3 separate storylines for us to follow: Victory Road, Starfall Street, and Path of Legends. While we've had plenty of side quests in previous games like in Pokemon Legends Arceus and Pokemon Sword and Shield and its DLC, we've never had 3 equally important storylines to follow in one Pokemon game. However, that only just barely scratches the surface on what all these games have to offer. So if you're interested in picking it up, I highly recommend doing a little bit of research to see what all these games have to offer in terms of new features and things like that. Now that we've gone over the basis of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, I brought in Manure Cannon and Psychotic Gamer, 2 members of the AOG content creation team, to discuss the new Pokemon games and to talk about our adventures so far through the Paldea region. I'll see you guys at the end of the video as I give you my final thoughts after beating the game. Overall thoughts, just briefly, just tell us what you think about the game. What's the biggest points for you, biggest hit points?
Personally, I think it has a lot of potential to be one of the best Pokemon games. Put the technicalities aside, I think at its core, concepts, execution, story, plot, everything overall, the exploration, the open world. I've been talking about open world since Sword and Shield first launched with the wild area. I remember Strictly being in a stream saying, "Wow, this wild area is so cool. I would love if they did a whole game open world." So I'm incredibly stoked on this, and I think it was executed well. There's not a dense population of Pokemon in one area, and the rest of it is empty. I think they executed the open world mechanics, and it feels alive. It feels like, personally, again, technical things aside, I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm talking about at its core. I do think we finally have a Pokemon game that is comparable to Breath of the Wild. In terms of open world, I have just as much fun exploring open world in this game as I did in Zelda. So I think that's a really big plus. Could it have been executed better? Yes, I really do think so. Is the render distance a little bit scuffed? Absolutely. But I think that also comes with the amount of moving parts within the game. I think they are limited by having Pokemon be alive. I think they have to cut back on the render distance and how things look at a far range. Breath of the Wild kind of had, they had a lot better render distance, but at the same time, there was also like specific camps with enemies, and in between, you'd run into a pack of horses here and there, but ultimately there wasn't, 20 to 30 Pokemon around you moving and interacting at the same time like there was in Pokemon. So overall, I think it's really good. Technical things, I haven't run into too many myself. I had my game crash, I think, twice, but I was after I played for multiple hours. So the memory kind of filled up. Um, and I haven't had any game breaking bugs personally. So I think it's a great game overall.
Overall, like just based off my experience so far, I think it's a great game. Like you said, it's got a lot of potential. I definitely room to grow as well going into the future with Pokemon. I love the whole aspect of just riding around and just seeing all the different Pokemon just kind of like in their own environment, seeing how they interact with each other and everything. Aside from all the bugs and glitches and stuff like that, I think that's just something they'll eventually come out with a patch. I'm sure they're probably working on it at this moment just because of how negative it's getting out there about that. But overall, I've really enjoyed the game. The story has been really really good so far up to where I'm at. I've heard a lot of positive things from other streamers, other players. They've enjoyed the game very very thoroughly. I don't know. It's like a childhood dream come true. You grow up and you're like, oh man, I can't wait to just explore the world of Pokemon and just see how it is in the open world. And we're actually finally living that dream. And so just seeing where Pokemon's gonna go from here, it looks good. It looks good.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think the what you said there at the end about it capturing like the Pokemon dream, like, you know, everybody's always thought about what if Pokemon were real. Like this is the closest it's come, right? Like this
Exactly.
really gives us like an actual simulator of Pokemon IRL is basically what it is, because you know, you get to travel, you get to explore, and just one thing, we mentioned this earlier, but like my biggest like plus with the game is I don't know, I get distracted a lot and that's why I really liked Breath of the Wild, is because you can just explore and you're like, oh hey, what's that over there, something shiny, let me go pick it up, see what it is, you know, and that's what makes open world games great, is because they incentivize exploration, they incentivize getting, you know, off track and going to find things, and I think this game does a really good job about that. Like if you're like, oh wow, that's a really big cliff, I want to go see what's on top of there. Uh-oh, you found a really good TM that you didn't have yet. Like, you know, they reward you in that aspect, and I think that they did a really good job with that. So overall, I think they've nailed it. I mean, this is so far has been a great game, and of course we know that there's DLC to come as well, so there's no telling where they're going to go with that. It's gonna be awesome. What do you guys like about the open world? Do you think too big, too small? You think it was made well? What are your pluses and minuses, pros and cons with the first legitimate, I guess you could say, open world Pokemon game?
No, I think it's a great execution. I do. You know, obviously a big concern with the complete open world game, like I kind of mentioned before, is it going to feel empty? Is it going to feel like it's worth exploring? Does it feel alive? And I truly do think that it feels alive. Especially one of my favorite mechanics is the idea with that apologize if this might be spoilers, but Ditto and Zora, their mechanics. If you know what it is, do you guys, should I say it?
Yes.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
go
you're
for it.
good.
No, you're good.
Okay. So with Ditto and Zora, they are disguised as other Pokemon in the overworld, and that's something we've never seen before. We've always just caught a Ditto that would transform. So it feels so alive, and it feels like Pokemon have personalities more so than ever before. In terms of the size of the map, I think it's a fair size. I don't think it's too big. I feel like when I first look at the map, I'm like, wow, this looks ginormous. But then as I'm exploring, I'm like, oh, okay, things are a little bit closer than I thought they were, but not too close. I feel like it's easy to maneuver and accessible, I guess is the best way to say it. Um, I really do think it's the best open world. In terms of the progression of the game, I will say that I have a little bit of a gripe with it, but only in the fact that, you know, they say it's open world and you can explore your path in any way you want, but I did feel like there was a specific linear path that you kind of had to go down, unless the one exception that which I did personally, was I pursued the mobility, the Titans, in order to increase my mobility so that I could access anything. So it is like you could go in any direction you want, but at the same time, I feel like you're kind of limited in, okay, I have to get this movement so I can scale this wall to get over there. Because I remember one point I tried to go to another town and just on my ride, and I couldn't get through because there was a team star battle there. So I was forced to either progress to get my movement so I can go around it, or I can do the team star battle. So that's one thing that, you know, I think they could have done better. That, but at the same time, that is still true to Pokemon. So, you know, devil's advocate, I understand why they did it, because, you know, that's how Pokemon is.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I really think that, like, even though it is open world, go wherever you want, there's still a template. There's still kind of like, you know, you don't want to go through, you know, this number of gyms without doing one team star base. Like you have to kind of pick and choose as you go. Everybody's probably, no, not probably, no one is probably going to go in the exact same order unless they looked it up and said, okay, this is the optimal order of how to do everything. So like there's a whole bunch of variation here and there, but it's not massive, you know, and the reason for that is because there is no level scaling, which I kind of do wish they would have done that. But for the open world aspect, I mean, everything is quote unquote accessible at the beginning. So like that's, to me, that you know, I don't have a complaint about it. I don't really have any, and it seems like we're all kind of in agreement on that. It's not a, it's they delivered on it for the most part.
I think they hit it with the whole open world exploration part. I think with Legends Arceus, we kind of got a little bit of a taste of what Pokemon would be with an open world, and then this was kind of that next stepping stone for them. So with how they're seeing how the game has come out since day one, any like again going back to the little glitches and patches they got to bring in, but they're now seeing all of this right like happen right now for them. So now they kind of get an idea of like, okay, so where can we go from there? So now we kind of can see potentially see maybe the map expand even more going into future games, like maybe one big thing for me, I would love to be able to play like Pokemon Heart Gold as a full like exploration, be able to go from Kanto to Johto or vice versa, and just be able to explore that whole area and kind of like live what we're going through right now with Scarlet and Violet for that region. I think that would be amazing, just how big that game is in general. Again, they did kind of limit it with exploration a little bit with our ride Pokemon. You had to beat certain Titans before you can go to certain areas of the map. Level scaling that would have been huge. I think that was a little bit of a disappointment, but again, that's Pokemon for for some things. Um, but otherwise, like I've been thoroughly enjoying it, exploring the map. Like I've spent like 30 hours already in this game, and I have only 3 badges. If that tells you anything, I get lost all the time, just exploring, finding new Pokemon to catch. I'm already kind of trying to shiny hunt, even though I have no shiny charm. Don't know why I'm doing that, but I'm doing it anyway. But I think they nailed it pretty good, just as like a stepping stone so far.
To your point about shiny hunting, I think so. I have one. No, I know I saw you have at least one.
I've
And
gotten 3 or 4 total so far.
4, okay, and then Psychotic has 6.
Or shiny Malcombies.
Yeah, so 6 total. Is that right?
6. Yeah, that sounds right. 6.
Yeah.
No,
so
7 actually. 7. Sorry.
Jeez.
So with that, I mean, 30 hours, 7 shinies. You think that shiny odds are a little too overpowered here? Is it too easy?
I don't want to say it's too overpowered. The only reason I have the 4 shiny Melcomies to begin with is with the mass outbreaks. There has been a method that comes out with the picnic method, is what they're calling it. So if you defeat 6 Pokemon at an outbreak, or not 6, I'm sorry, 60 Pokemon at an outbreak, you'll have your best shiny odds, I guess is what they're saying. I guess I can confirm it with my luck with that. But I found a Combi outbreak. I defeated 60 plus of them, and then what you would do is you go into picnic method, then you go back out, and it'll redo the spawns. Basically, be a whole brand new batch of spawns for you. So there's a chance it could be shiny, chance they could not be, and you just go in and out of that until a shiny pops up and just catch it that way. So I would say the picnic method is definitely broken. At least to me, it seems like it. But overall, just the shinies on the map, I don't want to say it's too broken. You just gotta be able to tell if there's shinies on the map, because if you don't know what it looks like, you could definitely miss it.
Personally, I don't think that it's overpowered at all. I think that it is. I think they did a much better balance than they did with Legends Arceus. So I think the number one problem with Arceus was not the amount of shinies, but the way you found a shiny. It had you in our Legends Arceus, you were able to just kind of fly around without having any regard of what's below you, and just auditorially listen for that shine, that sparkle sound, and then you're like, oh crap, where is it? Let me fly down and find it. So there's like borderline no even attention with Legends Arceus. You just have to like, you can be watching a movie and just hear the sound, and you like look down. But personally, I really like the shiny hunting methods. I like that they don't have any overworld effects. I I could argue for the sake of having stars at the very least, because like you guys were saying, some of the shinies are such a minuscule change and they are so small on the screen. Um, Specifically, like a fungus, like fungus. is so small that like you genuinely have to pull your Switch 3 inches from your eyeballs to see what it even looks like.
So the game overall, we have, you know, three different storylines. You have the gym leaders, you have the Titans to take on the Titan Pokemon, and then you have the Team Star bases. So 8 gym leaders, 5 Titans, 5 Team Stars. All in all, we've all done our fair share of each of these, depending on, you know, each one of us is at a different point in our progress. Difficulty level, what are we thinking? Is it too easy, too hard, just right? Where are we there?
I personally thought that there were definitely some battles that I found myself, struggling a little bit. And I mean, I haven't lost any battle per se, but I had 4 Pokemon down. One of them at half HP, the other one in the red. And I have to revive the Pokemon I need to be super effective. If you have the knowledge of Pokemon, it definitely could be easy. But I do think that I think it was a pretty good balance. Of course, with no level scaling, I if I went out of order with the badges, I ended up going back and fighting a level 20 gym that I just demolished it. That's a different story though. I think if you're on the appropriate level at the appropriate gym, I do think that there's a fair challenge.
Yeah, it's the same for me, really. I haven't lost a battle like I might have lost one like really really early on just because I had like 1 or 2 Pokemon early on. But like, I do remember one of the Team Star battles. I had to like heal probably 3 or 4 times in it. Like, so there definitely are some difficult battles. There are some easy ones, like you said, but that will pretty much be up to the order that you go in. So it's probably a good idea to look up and find, you know, what order have other people gone in, what do they recommend, check the levels of the gym leaders and the Titan Pokemon and the Team Star bases and things like that beforehand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and a prime example of the difficulty especially once you get later game and it's kind of everybody's on the same, like I'm fighting level 60 Pokemon with my level 67 Pokemon. Um, the end of the Legends fight, I just did it earlier today, and I, like you said, I had to revive like specific Pokemon and heal up multiple times. Like every time you throw out a new Pokemon, I had to heal up the super effective Pokemon typing. And there was a point that one of his almost took out my entire team. So, I definitely think that it depends on where you're at and what level your Pokemon are. But overall, it's pretty good.
I know definitely like with me right now, I haven't really struggled with anything yet, but I've also been doing a lot of just exploring and beating wild Pokemon. So my team might be a little overpowered right now, but I I do know at some point it is going to get difficult for me. So I'm definitely looking forward to that to have a little bit more of a challenge at this moment. But yeah, I from what I've heard overall, I feel like they've done a pretty good job keeping it to scale and everything.
The biggest con for these Pokemon games that Twitter has done a phenomenal job of pointing out is the amount of bugs and glitches. We all know of the common frame rate issue that happens. Typically, the render distance is not very good for some of the bigger, more crowded areas. But overall, it's been identified that there's a memory leak, and it's nothing that a patch can't fix. So overall, are you guys finding the bugs and glitches to be, I mean, is it bearable up until this point, or I mean, obviously, I think we can all agree it's something that should be fixed, come whenever the next patch is. But what's our level of tolerance right now for these numerous bugs?
Like I said kind of earlier, I haven't had anything that was game breaking for me. Besides where my game crashed twice, but again, I was playing for hours on end. With the amount of things coming in and out of the game, at that point, kind of understand. Um, but the frame rate, I personally say there is no excuse for me. Certain areas, and in the wild and when in the open world, yes. But I remember when I started out the game, and I was walking into the classroom, and the professor was introducing me, and there were kids kicking their feet in the seat, which is a cutscene. And I kid you not, it was I had no more than 5 frames per second, no more.
I
Um,
noticed that too.
Nothing unbearable personally. Other than the frame rates, the frame rates kill me. That's my biggest gripe personally.
Honestly, the whole cutscenes and everything that definitely should not be happening. I'm actually when I first saw it, I was actually shocked that that was even happening because I've never seen that happen before for any of these newer Pokemon games. It was just mind blowing to me. But I do understand with it being an open world map and everything, when you have people walking around the city or the towns and they're kind of like glitching here and there as they're walking, and you're just it's kind of like laugh at a little bit. But I feel like you said, there's some things they're not gonna see when they're playing the game and everything like that. So right now we're testing it out for them. They're seeing what's going wrong with the game, what they need to improve on, what they could potentially fix, hopefully ASAP, in a future patch update. So I think that it'll be fixed sooner than later. It's just a matter of like when they're gonna go ahead and do that. Hopefully before Christmas time, when everyone else is waking up Christmas morning, and if they don't have the game already, get to start their journey that day. So fingers crossed for a patch soon, but I think it's tolerable. Overall, it hasn't ruined my experiences. I've had times where my character has gotten stuck like on a ledge randomly, and it looks like my guy's like floating, but he's not really going anywhere, and then it'll just restart the map for me and I don't lose anything or anything like that. So overall, it hasn't really ruined my experience.
My biggest, like, the biggest point for me is, yeah, is it bad? Yes. Does it actually make you enjoy the game less? No, it doesn't. It doesn't really take away from the experience. It doesn't take away from the fact that you're playing an open world Pokemon game, pretty much for the first time. Is it bad? Do they need to fix it? Absolutely. It's some of the mistakes are inexcusable, but overall, it's not taking a massive toll on the game as a whole. But with that being said, all things considered, everything we've gone over, out of 10, what would you give Pokemon Scarlet and Violet?
My heart says 10 out of 10, but realistically, given the information that's present, I'm going to say an 8.5 out of 10 with a high probability of being at 10 out of 10 in the near future. Um Mainly being, updates, patch fixes, as well as the DLC. I think once the DLC drops, I'm hoping that that's going to be massive. And I don't know if you guys are aware of have looked at into anything, but there's a lot of legendaries programmed into the game and can be transferred into the game. I can see them, probably doing something with that as well. So come DLC. Um, so I think potential to be 10 out of 10. I'm gonna go 8.5 right now. But in terms of enjoyment and fun, easily a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, honestly, I'm with you on that. I was gonna say 9 out of 10 as well. Like you said, all the little bugs and hiccups the game's having right now, I'm sure it's going to be fixed and resolved soon. Level scaling would have been great. I think the limitations they kind of give us with the ride Pokemon kind of hits it a little bit, because with, again, it's supposed to be an open world for us, but they did kind of limit it just a little bit for us too at the same time. So that kind of but overall, it's probably the most fun I've had in a Pokemon game thus far. It's finally that open world map we've all been wanting growing up, playing the games, and then watching the shows and everything, and seeing them explore. It's just overall great experience. I think the future is bright for these games going forward for us, and I can't wait to see what comes next.
I'm gonna go overall rating. I'm gonna go a 9 out of 10. I think they've done a great job. I think they hit the nail on the head. The -1 for me overall has to do with no level scaling. I think that they should have done that. I don't think that would have been too much work on them, and it would have made It would have made the game completely, I guess, non-linear is the word. It would have made the game completely non-linear. You could have gone straight to the icy mountains. You could have gone straight, you could have gone anywhere from the start and just began your journey wherever you wanted to. And it would have been kind of cool to see, like, the psychic type gym leader have, baby Pokemon and only have 3 of them instead of however many they have at the very end. So like that would have been really cool to see. And I think they could have done that. I don't think it would have been hard to make 8 different variations of one gym leader's team, or of 8 8 different variations of 8 gym leaders teams. It would have probably taken them a little bit of time, but it shouldn't have been too difficult for that to be implemented. So that's going to be part of the reason why I'm not going to give it a 10 out of 10. And the other part is, yes, there are some lazy bugs in the game. I think that there are things that, like you said, there are some things that they don't know to look for. And so I think with a patch, if they are to fix things correctly and fix things thoroughly, I think they could take it up, in my opinion, to a 9.5 out of 10. Because I think this is I think that the concepts, everything of an open world Pokemon game and what we wanted in an open world Pokemon game, I think they have completely delivered on that. I saw a tweet today. Some guy said this is the most poorly made Pokemon game ever, and it's also the most fun Pokemon game ever. I don't necessarily agree with the most poorly made, but I do think that they have. I do think that while some of the issues are embarrassing, I do think that there's some very strong positives. So I'm gonna go 9 out of 10 for now, and with the DLC, with patches, that could very easily jump to a 10 out of 10. In my opinion, I think it's the best Pokemon game we've ever had. So I hope you guys enjoyed that little interview session with Man Your Cannon and Psychotic Gamer. And I want to thank those guys for taking the time to join me and to have a little talk about the new Pokemon games. As far as my final judgment of these games now that I have completely beaten the game, I'll just say that the story will really get you. It's a better story than what we've seen in previous Pokemon games, especially in recent Pokemon games. My goodness, they have been lacking recently. But this game does a really good job of tying all the storylines together, tying the characters' stories together as they intertwine. And the ending is phenomenal. It's very good, and I think honestly it would appeal to the non-Pokemon fans for sure, with it being open world, with it having, so many new Pokemon that we all don't know anything about or don't know very much about yet. So that would kind of cleanse the palate for new folks to come into Pokemon games, as well as old fans who used to play the really, really old Pokemon games to come into the game and to give it a shot there. But yeah, honestly, the story is so good. The story alone is worth the $60 in my opinion. I have never had a Pokemon game with such an emotional and honestly, just a story that wins your heart over is really what it is. I'm going to change my rating. That I said in the interview session. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. It's a great game. It's the best Pokemon game that I've ever played. And I'm sure a lot of people will agree with me. I'm sure there'll be people who disagree with me as well. But that's just how I feel in the current moment, days after beating the game. It's not so much of a recent feeling. Like I after thinking it through, after reminiscing on the game itself, I definitely think that it's a 10 out of 10 Pokemon game and a 10 out of 10 video game in general. And on that note, I'm going to head out. I appreciate you guys sticking around for the whole thing. I appreciate you guys watching this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.